I'm joined by the 6 amazing cast members of Oxventure Presents Deadlands. You know them and you love them, but you probably do not know nor love me. My name is Zach.
That was brutal and
We
very
love
funny.
you.
Yeah.
Wow.
My name is Zach, and I am the Oxventure producer here at Outside Xbox Enterprises. But please, can everyone else introduce themselves before we kick into things? For our Deadlands Q&A, I'm going to kick over to Luke.
Hello, I'm Luke. I play the character DeLacy in our Deadlands campaign.
Amazing. Ellen?
Yep.
I'm Ellen, and I play Edie Valentine in Deadlands. Yay.
Andy.
Oh, I'm Andy, and I am the Marshal, the DM. I run it.
Mike.
I'm Mike. I play Silas Flint.
Lovely. Jane.
I'm Jane, like Jack said, and I play Garnet Munro.
And Johnny.
Hello, my name is Christopher Montebank. No, I'm Johnny, and
wow.
I play Nate Jansen, a doddering old fool.
Lovely. So we've just concluded an incredible 10-episode arc of you all playing Deadlands. First of all, I'm just going to open up to the group as a starter question and say, first impressions, the end of that session, that final episode, like lots of stuff happened. What was going through everyone's minds when you finished that final session and everything had been revealed? What were your thoughts?
I
was expecting a big boss fight.
Yeah, what I thought was, oh man, I had so many other phases of this boss fight plan, but Nate just did like 600 points of damage. So there's no way I can realistically and with good conscience have this boss fight continue. So
I remember thinking, I can't believe I just did the thing that I hate having done to me so often. But I got caught up in the moment. I was like, hold on a second. If I let the devil out and shoot twice... Whoops. Sorry.
But it was a great move.
I felt
Anyone
cool
else?
about it.
I was expecting a big boss fight, but not necessarily like a multi-stage one or so much of a sort of story-led one. But I suppose if I'd thought about it for more than a second and thought about what the sort of things that Andy likes, I'd have guessed that there would have been narrative interweaving with the boss fight, and it wouldn't be your average straight combat encounter.
I mostly felt relieved that we'd like navigated through it with nobody dying. I loved that final encounter had lots of like little sort of vignettes thing. Like everyone had a little moment, and yeah, I was a bit nervous. When that was happening because DeLacy can really only do one thing. So you know, I think he's a great addition to an adventuring party, but when it's just him on his little lonesome, yeah, I was feeling nervous. So I was relieved we didn't die.
Yeah, I wanted the final boss fight because we had every episode so far had a boss fight at the end where it's just you shooting at a big boss thing. I thought it'd be more interesting to have the actual final boss fight be sort of against an enemy, but also a bit against yourselves, and it was more about the characters sort of applying what they learned and how their character arcs had been throughout the series. That was the sort of key to like winning each section of the boss fight. I just thought that would be more interesting than just shooting a big monster.
A big pool of hit points.
Yeah, exactly.
And I think that transitions quite neatly into one of the first questions we have from the audience, which is from the OX Supporters Club. Someone by the name of DeGooder has asked, Andy, what was the hardest thing for you GMing in your first ever game that you've run?
I think the unpredictability, for sure. Like you can plan out the main NPCs and the locations, and guaranteed you'll throw in some bit of like incidental bit of world building description that you haven't thought any more about, and that'll be the thing that everyone wants to go off and investigate or talk to.
That's true.
And then it's a spiral because they want to go into this building. Oh, someone has to be in there. Who is that? What do they sound like? You have 2 seconds to come up with that person. So yeah, that was a challenge. I probably overplanned. I think there's stuff I planned that we didn't even get to. had like full backstories for all of the duelists in episode 2. I had all these different pavilions in the World Fair planned in case they decided to go around through the pavilions instead of across the lake. So there were all these different like there was like a hall of taxidermy that they could have gone into and all this stuff, which would have been fun. But that's maybe I'll use it some other time.
It's a real look what you could have won situation, having those places described to you after the fact.
Oh man, one of the funniest things is when they all went into the Hall of Oddities after dark, they go past a cabinet that's I described as being full of relics, and those are all named relics from the Deadlands book that like Billy the Kid's hat was in there, John Wesley Hardin's cards were in there. These are all things they could have taken that would have been like enormously useful, and they just walked straight past it.
Just didn't think. Like, some dusty old
Wouldn't
things.
have done me any good. I forgot you gave me a really key relic magic item at the end of I can't remember the number of the episode now, but I must have just like kicked it into the trash at some point, because like I totally didn't have it on me in the final episode.
Yeah, you
or
had,
if I did, I didn't bring it to bear.
You had Watley's unholy icon,
Which would have replenished my power points, right?
Yes, yeah, and in the final fight, you had all your power points drained.
Yeah. So would it have worked?
Yeah, no, absolutely. That's kind of what I was expecting you to do.
Oh man.
Oh well, that sucks. Yeah.
I absolutely lost it when Andy told me about all the relics that had been passed over. I was just like, what? Like they left what on the table? Because I'm a self-confessed dead. I'm sorry, I'm not. I don't mean this in like a
No.
what
That's
awful
fair.
role players. I mean like, oh my god, it's those relics. Because I'm a self-confessed Deadlands nerd. Basically,
I think that the problem is that there was like a creepy hand, and we were more interested in the creepy hand.
Oh,
basically, there's something there was like we were like. Ooh.
Some days you just gotta go for a creepy hand.
Yeah.
Relics
Delacey
are
was
old.
like, creepy,
Get with the
yeah.
times. We're all about living in
One
the
of my
present.
personal favorite staples of the series has been Johnny's reaction to cool things that Andy has planted that no one else knows about, but Johnny has got it. They are like well into it, and that was one of my favorite things.
I really showed my own ass with the tumbleweed, though. I was freaking out because tumbleweeds are horrible, and it was just a tumbleweed. It was a real.
That's one of my favorite things about the last episode, because I was delighted to learn that vampire tumbleweeds are a thing.
When they've had enough of a feed, they look like seaweed because they go all floppy and wet.
Oh.
Well, that does transition nicely into another question that we've received from Fluke on the OX Supporters Club, which was Nate's undead affliction something planned from the start? I'll kick that over to both you, Andy, and Johnny.
Johnny, go ahead.
Yeah, it was because I wanted to play a Harrowed, and I just thought it would be. My initial pitch to Andy was, can I just play an old man who has a heart attack and dies at the end of the first episode? And Andy quite reasonably came back to me and was like, well, why don't we make the character death something story relevant and meaningful rather than completely arbitrary? And I went, oh yeah, that's a good idea. Which I think is perhaps a window into our minds respectively as planners for role-playing sessions. I just thought it'd be funny. I considered taking, because there's a hindrance, it's like, I think it's called One Foot in the Grave, where it's Aelin. Aelin Minor, at the end of every session you make a roll, and if you flub it becomes Aelin Major, and if you flub the roll a second time you die at the end of the next session, just because you're quite sick. But obviously, like, leaving that up to chance was a bit funny. So yeah, I basically Andy was like, "How about we kill this character in a way that's actually useful?" And I think he did a great job.
Well, I already had the idea in mind for the dueling contest, and I thought it would really up the stakes in the dueling contest if we had a player character die in the dueling contest. And Johnny came to me asking if they could die early in the series, and I was like, "This is perfect. This this." meshes together exactly how I was hoping it would. So it was all kind of fortuitous circumstance, really. But
the rest of us were not in on this.
Yeah, yeah. We had no idea.
What was that
I
like?
don't think I sold it well enough. When it happened, I was just like,
Lol.
I should have been a bit more shocked, but it was quite funny. Sorry, Zach.
What did it feel like as, Luke Jane sat there watching this happen? What were the thoughts going through your head?
I'll be honest, it felt amazing. It's like
I could really stretch out, on the table when doing that.
No, it was a rush. We've not had a player character die in a Nox venture before, so when Nate got sort of blown violently apart, I was like, oh my god!
I was holding out.
I have to be so careful.
I was
in my
holding
next
out for
gunfight.
the liquor flask or the little Bible in the breast pocket. I was like, sure. I was like, and
It's just beans
and
from the can
Nate
of beans that
reaches
took
it- yeah.
the slug.
I think Jane's reaction was my favourite. It was like, Johnny, no.
What is happening?
What's going on? No.
Actually, Ellen, I'm gonna pull you out on that and go to the next question, which is,
Oh, yeah?
Well, you weren't all there for the different episodes, and what were you watching episodes as they came out as we were still filming? This is to everyone, and also, were you reading any of the theories that were coming out as you were still filming?
Yeah, so like a lot of us would join the live chat when things were going, or like if not, I was catching up afterwards because I wanted to see how everything went down. Because I'll be honest, after you guys filmed after that episode with Nate was filmed, we weren't told about the Harrowed thing. But the guys just came into the chat. Everyone just came into the chat, was like, Nate's dead, lol, and we were like, what? 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 So we had the same reaction just off camera, but we had no idea that Johnny had made Nate harrowed, and it was really like reading a lot of the fan theories where they're like, oh, it's the four horsemen, because like Andy had this amazing like overarching story idea of like you collecting the 4 different rings, blah, blah, and the thing is, because we were split up into different groups, none of us was getting the whole picture like the viewers at home were, and so like I'd been we'd filmed these in advance, so the couple of I'd filmed a couple of them already of like the individual going after the kind of the rings and such, and it was just like people go, oh, it's the 4 horsemen. We're like, oh yeah it seems so obvious now.
Well, okay. So, obvious.
Like, not when after reading someone's fan theory as well, like reading it in the chat, you're like, oh, it clicks. And I don't mean obvious as like, oh, anyone could have called that out. I mean like it's really well set up, and like I think that Andy has created really good parallels that fit in the Weird West world, is what I was saying, rather than going, oh my god, it
obvious
was, like, really
derivative.
easy to read.
We all loved it.
No, I fully expected like the audience to get at least the 4 horsemen thing. I for me that wasn't like the twist. The twist was Victoria also being one of the 4 horsemen, and I was kind of banking on the fact that the players wouldn't get it because they weren't in, unless you're in every session. I don't think there's enough. If you're only in 2 sessions, I don't think there's enough to make that connection.
Exactly. A very authentic role player, did not watch the sessions that I wasn't in, and did not read any fan theories because DeLacy didn't.
You
know.
kept yourself pure.
Yes, and I'm shocked that the rest of you didn't.
So method.
Because when we'd already filmed stuff,
Not really.
Just to transition again, Andy, a lot of the questions were asking, how did you come up with this overarching story? This story of the 4 horsemen and Victoria. What was that process like of bringing that together?
So I settled pretty early on the 4 horsemen thing. It's a big deal in Deadlands. The 4 horsemen, and they have these. They're called servitors. I don't know how you would describe them, but they're sort of like carrying out the will of the 4 horsemen. And I was like, that's kind of interesting, but I want to I want to do a Four Horsemen thing, and I want them to be the actual Four Horsemen, which is, I think, probably a major canon crime in the world of Deadlands. So if anyone is a big Deadlands fan, I apologise for
Big
that.
fan of canon crime.
But yeah,
It's the next step up from gun crime.
yeah, so I knew how many episodes we had, and I thought, as a structure, that kind of villain of the week style thing for the middle sections, there were going to be 4 of those. It just seemed to map quite well. I wanted like a twist at the end. I know that everyone thought Eleanor in Blades in the Dark was evil, but then she wasn't. So I thought that the players might be more inclined to trust a female quest giver who had been terribly wronged in the past. I feel like that's the sort of character these players will be sympathetic to. And I didn't want to do the haha, I was evil all along thing at the end, because I think that kind of sucks. So it's a sort of twist on that, in that I think Victoria is genuinely a really tragic figure, in that she was created for this one purpose. Her friends all abandoned it to try and take parts of the world that they were supposed to destroy for themselves, and she's the only one who stayed loyal to their purpose. She
Even if their purpose is bad.
Right, yeah, but it's not like it's like a sort of it's morality. It's like an unknowable morality, right? It's just completely alien to anything that humans can relate to.
Yeah,
tell me this, Andy. Who's Victoria's boss?
Well,
That's for season 2, presumably.
But yeah, she obviously doesn't have a husband and a son, but I think when she's telling the gang about them at the start, and she's relaying this very emotional story, she's describing what happened to her in a way that she thinks they'll be able to relate to, and in a way that she knows is going to inspire an emotional response. Like, the Red Hand gang were her family, the Armageddon they were supposed to bring about, like, in a way, that's her son. So yeah, it's like she's convinced, having gone through all this with the wild card, she's convinced they're on the same page as her, and then to be betrayed a second time, I think that's it's quite tragic. It's quite sad.
I really liked the fact that she clearly considered like the posse to be peers, and she was genuinely, when we were like, we're not going to do that, she was like, what do you mean? I thought you guys.
I thought we were cool.
I thought you were cool. Yeah. It's deft, and again, it's it does make her more of a tragic figure, and it's not the sudden, like,
Haha.
evil cackle thing.
Yeah.
Were there any particular themes that you were trying to tackle with the story of Deadlands that you want to tell the audience about?
I think the kind of key thing I was trying, the parallel I wanted to get going was like the posse as potential new horsemen. And I've seen a few people ask if like I had in mind at the start who would correspond to who, but I didn't. I sort of watched how they played and tried to map them onto those elements themselves. So it's like they didn't always map 100%, but I think there's something there in everyone. Like Garnet as Famine, which she was, I think, quite annoyed about. She didn't even meet Famine, as she said, complaining about it. But it's like, I felt like Garnet's magic, when that's taken away, there's like a hunger in her. Something's been taken out. She's like feels empty without the magic, and that's the sort of the parallel being drawn there. And with like Edie and Pestilence, it's like her grief is like a disease. So that's the sort of thing I was trying to do. It's like getting people to examine these characters and their flaws and sort of trying to overcome them, I guess.
I think that's very evident in what you've put across. Going to everyone else, one of the questions that we've received, I'll read it out specifically. It says, Jane referenced an old version of Garnet when realizing she couldn't ride a horse. What other ideas for characters did you all have before settling on the ones that you played? That is from Matt Wheaton on Instagram.
I had no other ideas. Silas is all I've got, unfortunately. And
Intellectually bankrupt.
Yeah, exactly, basically. And in fact, I was, when I was putting him together, all I could really think of was he's really angry all the time, and also he's afraid of horses. And I thought that was maybe a bit slight, because I was like, well, the horses thing's not really going to come up that frequently. And then obviously,
by God, you made it come up.
Yeah, and then it just became more his character than anything else. Like, everyone forgets that Silas gets angry. What they remember is he doesn't like horses very much. But yeah, I was a little worried that he'd be a sort of thin, uninteresting character. But actually, the horses thing carried me through. I think
Silas is not unlike Egbert in that the conceit is.
Like I said, creatively bankrupt.
Well, the conceit isn't overly complex, right? You've got, lawman in Wild West who doesn't like horses, and you've got paladin who does not do paladin stuff.
Yeah.
It's simple, but there is depth and there's versatility to it, because, it's always interesting to see how that's going to go. It's like people love cat videos of cats reacting to different things, because the core concept is good. And then random elements.
Yeah.
Cats, they're all right. There you go, I said it.
I want to hear everyone's answer to that question, though, because it's super interesting. I don't think we really talked about it.
For a long time, I was working on an old-timey widow, grieving widow in a, sort of veil and, old-timey Weird West widow's weeds. You can visualize it.
Yeah.
But I always imagined she would be a magic user of some sort. And then I felt like I was, as a sort of powerful goth, I thought she was straying a little too close to Prudence, and I wanted to do something.
You had a pre-existing Deadlands character before this, right, Jane?
I did, but she was great. But I hadn't realised going in, that was my first Deadlands character. I made a Blessed, who was a nun, who was a pacifist, and had a really, a rich, interesting backstory. But the thing that was most forward in her character was that she was a pacifist and a Blessed, and both of those things are really limiting in an interesting way, in an interesting, character, fodder way. But I just wanted something that was a little bit more... blasty, I suppose. So.
Yeah, it's because I was marshalling in that campaign. The thing with Blesseds is that I was having to watch out to be like, well, I'm sorry to say this, sister, but they just did something morally reprehensible and you let it happen, so actually you're a little bit worse at your spell casting for a while, because God's angry with you is really weird.
Yeah, so. It was really, I really, really liked that character, but I don't know. I feel like Andy might try and murder all of us, so I thought I might need, a little more firepower on my side, unrestricted.
For my part, I landed straight on Nate, just because I've had the idea of I want to die in game and come back quite quickly, and I just I think a lot of the time, as a role player outside of Oxventure, but also before, in Blades in the Dark and stuff, I always see what everyone else has done and then try and backfill. And I felt like Casimir was a criminal because it was useful to have somebody in world who could be a guide to a complicated city, but everyone knows where you are in the Wild West. Everyone can imagine a horse and a gun. So I was like, I'm deliberately going to be someone who isn't taking the initiative, or basically I like playing support characters, and then I just made him old.
Yeah, with Edie, she was going to be a little bit more... She was going to be a monster hunter who used to be a saloon girl and just, decided to switch careers. But, part of it was because I was as part of the outfit, I'd have to wear a cowboy hat, and I had a distinct feeling that everyone was going to want to wear a cowboy hat. So, I was I wanted to do something a bit different with this character to the ones that I've done previously. Still make her a very kind of likable, friendly character, but just a little bit cheekier, a little bit non-magic user as well. Because even in Blades in the Dark, I was playing the one character who could sort of use a spell in ghost terms anyway. So I had an ability that other people couldn't really do. Whereas I wanted to just do a straight kind of they shoot guns and that's what they do, and they cut things with knives, and I was like, I've never really given my characters a particularly tragic backstory. They have been made tragic retroactively with Simon and things like that. I was just like, she used to have a cat. It was basically just to explain why I could wild shape early. Then it turned into a big thing, which I think was brilliant, and like that's the joy of role playing, is these stories come out of that. But with Edie, I was like, no, I am gonna write, she couldn't afford the help to stop a monster from killing her brother, so she's gonna do the work and make money on the side for the people who can't afford her services. So I was like, I'm gonna flesh this character out a little bit, and and like her cover is, when she needs to cover, is that she's just working in the saloon, and just something a bit different.
The other idea I had, other than DeLacy, was a sort of really early era, like journalist, like a sort of reporter who was out looking for big scoops, and would have a sort of like, be sort of like quite hapless. And I was thinking about an affectation where he would floridly describe everything that was happening as it happens. Like, I don't know.
I've been shot in the leg and the blood gushes in rivulets down my leg.
Yeah. Crowd stunned as bullet passes through leg of respected news writer. Like, that kind of thing.
I think I speak for everyone when I say thank you for making DeLacy.
But yeah, then I wasn't really sure about DeLacy's age. I kind of went like back and forth on that. At one point,
we had a conversation where we're like, is it going to be okay if a 13-year-old gets shot in this campaign?
Yeah.
Yes.
And I guess we decided yes, because it does happen.
A whole bunch of orphans without your being able to stop it for kicks.
That's true.
Mm-hmm.
But we had initially in my mind, I think he was sort of 8, and then I thought maybe he could be like 19, because Leonardo DiCaprio's character in The Quick and the Dead was a big sort of inspiration point, and he's obviously a bit older. And then I remembered that in Disney Channel original movies, everyone is 13, so I just went 13, because that's kind of what I was picturing. I was picturing the sort of like the earliest age that you can star in your own adventure. The
earliest age it's acceptable to be shot to death.
13.
Luke, I do have another question. This one's from YouTube.
Go ahead, Zach,
Emily Engel 7459.
Yeah.
And this is one that I really want to know. What was DeLacy's backstory? Why did he kind of first go out of his house as a 13-year-old? What was that motivation in your mind for DeLacy?
Did I not say? I probably should have said at some point. That's fine. Okay, so in my mind, he kind of grew up in a sort of Dust Bowl farm, like the one at the beginning of Wizard of Oz is like the kind of clear picture. Like he grew up in sepia, and is from a family who are nice and love him very much, but do not yearn for adventure. And he was just sort of born with that. Luckily, it's probably good that I didn't go into that, actually, because then later, the character that Jasper was playing in the World's Fair episode, Billy. It was Billy, wasn't it?
Bison Ticket, yeah.
Bison Billy, yeah.
Sorry, Zach. You have to cut around that. What? Yeah. Billy Bison Billy. We sort of in that episode ended up with a thing where DeLacy was a huge fan of that character. So I think actually, in retrospect, growing up on a farm, just had this one poster on the wall, and that was like, that's what I want to be. Too young to understand that Billy was like a performer, just just pretending to sort of be a cowboy, just like
Oh, that's lovely. I like that a lot. To extend out from Billy Joe Thicket, Bison Billy Joe Thicket, who is just one of my favorite characters ever in role playing. Like, Jasper did such an amazing job. Can we just have a moment to appreciate
Yes, so
Like,
good. It was an absolute joy playing with him. So yeah.
Yes. What was everyone's favorite NPC that they encountered throughout the campaign? Because I have a few that are very notable for me as a viewer, but I want to know as you as players.
My favourite was Sweet William.
Oh God, yeah.
I love Sweet William. He's so sweet.
You're so sweet.
Humble Ned.
I hope he comes back.
Bellows is going to haunt me forever.
Yeah, favourite is
voice.
a difficult word, but certainly
Yes.
the most memorable, nightmarish
It's like
character.
it,
I
like-
also like. Sorry, go on, Johnny.
No, you're fine. I was literally just going to say that he was like oily. Like he was. That was a viscous character. Like horrible. Oh no! Don't do it.
I really liked the cowboy who, well, not cowboy, the sort of gunslinger who was a radio star. With
Rex
the
Randall.
Rex Randall.
Yeah, Rex Randall with all the sort of like fine white clothes and stuff.
liked
I could
him?
just picture that very clearly.
What happened to him again? How
I shot him through the throat.
That's right. Yeah. Okay. Right. It's just a funny way of showing affection, man.
Yeah, he was very much based on. There's an old movie cowboy called Tom Mix, who used to dress in like the most ludicrously pristine white clothes, huge white 10-gallon hat, and it was very much that kind of early cowboy movie where he would walk into town, punch the bad guy, do a bunch of lariat tricks, and then tell you to buy oatmeal. Putting that sort of character in a real life or death situation, I thought was very funny. And then there was the Rex Randall Memorial Parade later on at the World's Fair.
Oh yeah.
That was priceless.
Yeah, I really felt for all the characters that we were fighting in the kind of like the Carousel of Progress food fight that we were having, and the dude that was just dressed as a cow. And like, I just felt like I was like, we have to fight them, but I kind of feel bad for them as well.
Yeah. It's not much, but it's a living.
Yeah.
What was your one, Jane? Oh, you were going to talk, and then I talked over you. I think. Sorry.
Well, it's a much smaller role than the Ben Bellows, sorry, who is obviously iconic and will haunt our dreams forever. But I really like I want to say it was like a Doc Holliday tribute.
Oh, Slim Hawkins.
Yeah, the card player
With tuberculosis.
with tuberculosis. Because I love Tombstone and Val Kilmer and I'll Be Your Huckleberry, etc. So that was a little role, but I definitely got the reference and I appreciated it.
Well, like I said, I had all these backstories for all the duelists because I thought for sure you would want to like team up with one of them maybe, and I didn't know which one it was going to be.
You're like, how about this one? What
was
about
like,
this cool guy?
I was
This
like,
other
they should
cool
be
guy.
bang. They should be fleshed
This
out.
lady. Yeah.
They should all be fleshed out
seems
characters
cool.
so that if they decide to, because they'll, knowing this lot, they'll decide to bring one of them along with them.
Andy's right. Get their flesh out.
Yeah, they were all conspicuously like super cool. Choose your fighter, like menu options, and then we were like, nah. Nah.
In the throat, please.
That's
Oh,
bad.
also-
Praise will haunt my dreams.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. It was the way it's delivered. The perkiness. It was
cheery.
too
The throat,
perky.
Yeah.
In the throat, please.
Like saying, salty or sweet popcorn? Oh, sweet, please.
Yeah.
Can I have a mix?
Head or unmentionables? Oh, unmentionables, please.
I'll have a mix, please.
Ellen, I think you were about to say something. Am I right?
Yeah.
Am I right?
I also really liked Dr. Harker, the creepy man with the big
Another quality voice.
Yeah, even though like he nearly gave, well, he did give
He
Edie
did. Gave you late-stage tuberculosis.
late-stage tuberculosis, but I got rid of it. It was fine. Oh, and also just like very easily dislikable characters who were there as patients. The
Senator Julius Waxman.
yeah, Julius Waxman, who
Yeah.
melted into Waxman. Yeah, it was really really fun to do that one because like I know exactly what I want to do to this character.
Yeah, Dr. Harker was partially based on David Cronenberg's character in Nightbreed. That's how I was sort of visualizing him when he was out of his glamour, with that kind of a face and that kind of a knife. So, and I was trying to do the voice of the guy from Wishmaster, Andrew Divoff.
Someone in the comments spotted that.
I know, amazing.
They were like, sounds exactly like Wishmaster.
I was like, oh my god, I can't believe anyone got that. That's amazing.
There are so many great references to like many different Western tropes in here. Like, and that was one of the big questions was like, what were your major inspirations, media-wise, Westerns for bringing this series together? So, yeah. For me, it wasn't so much Western stuff. There was a bit of that. Like, obviously, the second episode is very Quick and the Dead, which is probably my favorite Western. In terms of like, when I'm imagining the towns and the people and the settings, I think the HBO Deadwood series was the kind of primary influence on that in my mind. But the rest of the influences were more like episode 3 was very much kind of John Carpenter inspired, particularly the start of In the Mouth of Madness when Sam Neill is taken into the hospital. That was like, in my mind, that's what that looked like. The Hanging Judge episode, there was an episode of Tales from the Crypt with Catherine O'Hara in, called Let the Punishment Fit the Crime, which was the sort of genesis of that idea with a town where everything is super illegal and all the judges are totally over the top. And then for the episode with the World's Fair, obviously that was just inspired by the actual Chicago World's Fair in 1893, but also the Carousel of Progress from Disneyland for that boss fight on the merry-go-round of nutrition. So those are the sort of the main influences from my standpoint. I don't know about the others in terms of creating your characters or anything like that.
The Deadwood is one of my favorites. Like cowboy things, and the thing I love about Deadwood is that the language is so dense and like feels so authentic. So I rewatched a bunch of Deadwood in advance just so that I hopefully just had a bit of like cowboy slang and sentence structure sort of bumbling around in my mind.
I think that came off, definitely.
Yeah, for sure.
Like, he had a very assured way of speaking, which I really liked. I must have spent collectively at least 2.5 hours walking in the woods near me, trying on different voices, walking the dog, just muttering to myself. And eventually, because I was worried about consistency,
we're arrested.
and then I decided to just give myself a little treat. I was like, I'll just do Benoit Blanc from Knives Out, because on my own channel I've streamed all of the Frog Detective games, voicing the frog as Benoit Blanc, just because I think it's funny. And then I was like, well, if I've put in that practice, I may as well. And it's a good voice for like a doddering old man, because you get so much time to pause and just like basically try and wind people up by taking a long time to say nothing of use, like when you took on a coyote in a foot race, etc., etc.
Great,
that's amazing. Well, we are kind of getting close to the end of the video, so before we say goodbye, are there any final kind of tidbits about either your character or the story or anything else that we did this season that maybe wasn't revealed or what you didn't mention that you really want to tell the audience about? That's just really cool factoid that might not have been highlighted as much.
I love like clue names, right? So all the boss names were like related to their horsemen. So Bello is Latin for war. Daisy Ducrow's nickname Shikan is the Japanese word for disease. Mortimer Todd Boudreau, Mort is the French for death, Todd is German for death, and Hildegard Unger I sort of given up at this point, so that's just hunger. So, H Unger.
I really like that though. Like, I don't think it's a given up thing. It's just
Yeah, and Victoria being the Latin word for conquest was just like, that was
choice.
Yeah, Providence. That just fell into my lap. It was nice.
I made a deal with Andy before we began in the character creation stage, because your Deadlands character I think starts with, is it $300, $250, something like that?
Yeah, maybe 200. I can't remember. It's not loads, but it's not nothing.
Yeah. But it's actually like, if you look at how much things cost, it's it's a small fortune basically. And I made a deal with Andy that I would start with basically no money. I think like $5 or something, but I could increase my guns sort of damage dice from a D6 to a D8. The reasoning being that DeLacy would have spent every penny he has on like upgrading and refining that. So yeah, I know. But I like those sort of behind the scenes mechanical discussions. So I don't know if that's interesting.
It's like heavily based on that gun that Leonardo DiCaprio shows Russell Crowe in The Quick and the Dead, which has got the silver. The handles have been replaced with sterling silver, and it's just nice shooting iron.
I had a similar conversation with Andy about Silas, because I was looking through the hindrances and I really wanted like the anger thing to be like a mechanical part of his character as well as like a role-playing thing. And so we discussed kind of how that would work as a hindrance and stuff, but it came with a sort of agreement that like as a player I would often make decisions that were not necessarily for the group's or even Silas's benefit, because he can't hold his temper basically. And that did happen a couple of times, most notably I think in the very first episode where Silas is being held at gunpoint and is still insisting that the guy say please, which is like that's sort of the way I saw Silas, as a kind of like, he's angry to the point where it's probably going to turn out badly for him.
Nate I took a hindrance, which is poverty, which means that in game you halve your money every week, just because we just can't keep hold of it. Which I just thought was fun, and it also kind of fit with the idea that like Nate was doing this whole bounty hunting thing just because he was running out the clock. Like doesn't need money necessarily, he just needs something to do. Because I didn't want him to be like super money driven or anything like that. So like
it's like your retirement hobby.
Yeah. It's like, well, I suppose I'll try killing people for a living.
It was that or gardening. Yeah.
Exactly.
I've seen a few people being like, "Oh, how would it have gone if they'd taken something else from the train?" But I like deliberately made everything else in the train carriage like a giant Easter Island head that you couldn't carry. So it's like a bit of a DM's cheat, I'm afraid.
We went for it, and like it did seem like Silas was looking for the thing of seemingly least consequence to take.
Yeah.
And it was the most drab thing in the room. There was one comment I loved where someone was like, "If I know Deadlands, the like nondescript, shabby, run-down looking box is the exact thing you don't want to take."
Yeah.
And I read that and I was like, "Oh yeah, totally, that is really good." And then the box is on Victoria's desk, and I just thought,
"Oh no."
Shit.
Yeah, you did a good job of like being like, yeah, she throws it aside.
Yeah,
she
tosses
doesn't
it on
really
the
care about
couch.
it. Yeah, whatever.
Yeah. What is it? I don't know. Yeah, I've seen a few people ask as well, what would have happened if you decided to become the new horseman? Like, did that thought cross anyone's mind?
Yes.
It's not in Nate's wheelhouse.
Yeah.
DeLacy thought about it.
Well, no, I don't think DeLacy thought about it at all. But like, in the sort of the bit of my brain that was still Luke, I guess I was like, this might be pretty interesting to say yes to, but I don't know. It wouldn't have been. It would have been good role playing, I guess, because it just didn't feel like something that the kid would have wanted. But like, I would be interested to know if Andy had any kind of contingency.
Yeah, it was
just a happy ending. We are.
Well, a happy ending for Victoria, certainly. There was going to be a whole other final third of the story.
Cool.
But you turn down the power. Bad luck. Rings are all gone.
I couldn't square it with Silas's sense of justice that like all these people would be killed and stuff. So
it would probably have been a bit of a downer.
yeah, possibly.
As the seas boil with blood and all that. But.
I'm also going to say,
plus horses.
As somebody who makes Lord of the Rings references a lot, I will never make a better Lord of the Rings reference than I did at the very end of that last episode.
We were all of us deceived.
Yeah.
Very good.
This is off topic, but at the end of Blades of the Dark, there was like a moral choice as well, and I thought it was going to be a lot more sort of like evenly balanced than there was in terms of what everyone wanted to do. So yeah, I'd written out like a sort of full final cutscene A4 page in case they went for the other one.
I mean, there was no way Edvard was going with any plan that Astor moved. So,
I don't need to do that because I always know you're going to choose the worst option.
Well, on that note, I think we'll end the video. Thank you everyone so much for watching here on the Oxventure YouTube channel. If you are not yet, please consider subscribing to the channel. It would be a marvelous thing to do. Give the video a like. And the Deadlands merch, the cards and the shirts are all available, but who knows for how much longer because season's ending, so you better get yours now before they all go. So check that out at store.outsidexbox.com or on the lovely little merch shelf that is below the video. Thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you next time. Goodbye!